بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Just a reminder, this is Jummah and it's the awakhir sa'at of Jummah, the last moments of Jummah, so we should make the most of this time inshallah. So once this talk is ended, we can devote the rest of this time on this blessed day for ibadah inshallah and dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially for the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Yesterday we went over the eulogy of Mu'adh bin Jabal Radhi-Allahu anhu over the grave of Abu Ubaidah Abdul Jarrah Radhi-Allahu anhu, and I had mentioned how Abu Ubaidah Radhi-Allahu anhu had appointed him to take his place in the army, not as the commander-in-chief, but to run the salawat, the ibadat, and also to lead his salatul janazah if he passes away. So not in the military sense, but to run the normal day-to-day routine affairs that were happening in the camp, at the camp where the Muslim army was located. And I had promised that I would talk about some of his students, very few students that he had, but the students that he did have were very, very devoted to him. We mentioned that Mu'adh bin Jabal radiyallahu anhu, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with such a personality that people got connected to him. And once they got connected to him, then they never could let go. They could never separate from him. And they would spend the rest of their time being with him. It doesn't matter if he's still where they're from or he's moved on somewhere else. As many of his students come from Yemen, but then he moved on from there, went to Dimashq, and there he is. Then those same students from Yemen are now in Dimashq. So one of these students, his name was Yazid ibn Amira as-Saksiki, rahimahullah. He was one of the students of Mu'adh bin Jabal radiyallahu anhu. So when Mu'adh bin Jabal radiyallahu anhu got infected, as we mentioned, he also died in the plague of Amwas. So when he got infected and it was his time of death, his student Yazid was sitting by his, in the ra'si, by his head side, and he was crying as he saw Mu'adh radiyallahu anhu going through a lot of pain, and he would wake up, would say, make a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we're going to talk about the details of his last moments before he leaves this world, the sakaratul maut that came upon him. We'll talk about those later inshallah. There's another hadith about that. But when he was going through the sakarat of maut, the throes of death, at that time Yazid was sitting by him and he was crying. Crying for who? His teacher. Right? You cry for your mother, you cry for your father, you're crying for your teacher. How often do we hear people crying for their teachers when they're passing away? He said, Ma yubkika. Mu'adh radiyallahu anhu said, why are you crying? He said, Ama wallah ma abki lidunya kuntu usibuha mink. I'm not crying for the dunya that I took from you. Walakinni abki lima fatani min al-ilm. I'm crying because of the knowledge that I am being deprived of by your death. This rawaya tells us something very important that's a tradition in our ummah. I'm going to give two other examples to confirm this point, this tradition. Many times in our history, Islamic history, we had teachers who were very, very wealthy. We had students who were very, very poor. Their students were very poor, came from poor families. But students were very bright, very talented, and the teachers wanted them to succeed. But obviously, we have our needs with us. The student could not stay any longer. The teacher said, listen, I will take care of your needs. You continue seeking knowledge from me. We find this example in Imam Abu Yusuf and Imam Abu Hanifa. Imam Abu Yusuf was a very, very poor man, He was a young boy when he came to Imam Abu Yusuf. A young man, sorry, not young boy. Young man. And he was very, very poor. Actually, no, he was not a man yet. He was 13, 14. So he was a teenager. And he would spend time with Imam Hanifa rahmatullahi. Imam Hanifa rahmatullahi recognized that Imam Yusuf had potential for becoming a great alim, for spreading the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he took him in and he started teaching him the knowledge of the deen. But his mother, Imam Yusuf was a yatim. His mother would constantly nag him that you need to go out and make some money. We don't have anything to eat or drink. And you guys spending time with him all the time. What are you going to get out of this knowledge? We're not going to be able to make any money to feed our stomachs. So you need to go out and find a job or do some business in the market. So Imam Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi, one day it's mentioned that she came and to complain to Imam Hanifa that he was taking over her son's life. You don't allow him to do anything. You always make him sit next to you and just waste his time. He's not really getting anything out of this, because she was more worried about what? The fact that there's nothing to eat in the home and there's other kids in the house and he's the oldest of us, oldest of the siblings. So he needs to go out and earn something. At the time when she arrived, couldn't have been a worse moment. Why? Because at that time Imam Yusuf happened to be massaging Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi. And in her mind, she's thinking he's going there to seek knowledge. And he's massaging his teacher. So she says, Subhanallah. We're sitting here hungry in our home. My children are hungry. And look at him. He's sitting there for this king, massaging him. So Imam Hanifa rahimahullah said, he made a prediction. He said, a time will come when this son of yours will be in my position. And there will be others massaging him. And people will bring such dishes of food for him that are not available to everyone because not everyone can afford it. And he gave a name of a specific dish as well. Years later, when Imam Abu Yusuf became Qazi, the Supreme Court judge of Harun al-Rashid, rahimahullah. And that same dish that Imam Hanifa rahmatullah had named when his mother had come upon them, that dish was presented to Harun al-Rashid while he was sitting on the dastarkhan with Imam Abu Yusuf. When Imam Abu Yusuf saw the dish, he asked Harun al-Rashid what it was. When he named it, Imam Abu Yusuf started laughing. He said, what are you laughing about? What's so funny about the dish? He said, there's nothing funny about the dish. It reminds me of a prediction that was made by Imam Hanifa, and how my mother, when he said this to her, she thought he's going crazy. I'm telling you that we don't have any food in the house, and you're telling me he's going to become a big king, big guy one day. And he's going to be eating from this dish that's only available to a small number of people, because only a small number of people can afford it. What are you talking about? Are you insane? Are you in your, proper mind? And look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this come true. There's only one incident, but this, as I mentioned, this is a tradition. We find that Maulana Rashid Ahmad Gangohi rahmatullah alayhi of recent times, he used to have 50, 60, 70 students at a time. He took care of their food, their drink, their accommodations. When they came to stay with him in Gango, they stayed in the masjid or in different homes, but he was responsible for taking care of their food. So he had assigned certain people in the neighborhood. You're going to feed this person, you're going to feed that person, you're going to feed this person, you're going to feed that person. Right? So every student had a person or a family that was assigned to him who's going to take care of him. Right? And then Murshid Gangohi had a group of students among them who he had assigned for himself that he would take care of them personally. The brightest students. And that's how he would run his quote-unquote madrasa. That's how the madrasa was at that time. It was an actual building. It was people who came from all over the place just to seek the knowledge of deen. Wherever they can find a place to stay, they stayed. Wherever they could find food, they would find food. But Murshid ibn Gangohi rahmatullahi alayhi had provided for them in this case. And he specifically would only take those students who he thought had potential for spreading the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's mentioned in Tazkiratul Rashid that if he saw a student who could be a cause of fitna with the knowledge that he's learning from him, then he would make an excuse to get him out of the gathering, remove him from the gathering. Only keep those who have potential for spreading the deen, right? And becoming better people themselves, imbuing what they learn in their own lives. So this is not something new that we're only seeing Mu'adh bin Jabal radhiyallahu anhu doing this. This is a tradition that has been, this is not something new that we see Murshid ibn Gangohi rahmatullahi alayhi doing. This is something that has been passed on through the centuries. Mu'adh bin Jabal radhiyallahu anhu was doing it with his student, helping him out. And we see thereafter Imam Hanifa was doing it with Imam Abu Yusuf. And these are just known cited cases, but there are many, many cases throughout history of where teachers saw potential in a student and the student was too poor and he was in need. They would help them with their needs so that the student would stay seeking the knowledge of the deen and not get caught up in the markets or business or some other thing of the dunya. And it's just a reminder for us that when we have students who come to seek the knowledge of the deen, we should support them financially if we can. Because that student has potential and he can spread the deen. If that student comes out to become an amazing alim, amazing scholar who propagates the deen, who imbues it in his own life, brings it into his own life, and changes the world in a small way or a big way, this person will get the reward for all the work that is done by the alim. Every form of dhikr that is done, every form of propagation of knowledge that is done, every recitation of Quran-i-Kareem, that any type of ibadah, any connection that is built and made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, any good deed in any which way, he gets the reward for that. So this is a tradition. So this student was a poor student, Yazid. And Mu'adh radhiyallahu anhu, when he was in Yemen, he had enough money to take care of his students. So he would help him out. So he's saying to him now that it's not because I'm not getting the dunya that I used to get from you before where you used to support me financially. It's because now I have no one to help me acquire knowledge. I learned my knowledge from you. You are my source and you're going. So Mu'adh radiyallahu anhu said, "Inna al-ilma kama huwa lam yadhhab." Ilm never goes away. The holders of the ilm may go away, but there will be new people that will take their place who will continue to preserve that knowledge. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised that He is going to preserve the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's going to preserve the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So the holders will go, but they'll be replaced by other people. Who will those other people be? So he says, فَطْلُبِ الْعِلْمَ بَعْدِي. Seek the knowledge after me. I'll be gone. Knowledge won't go. You want it? There's these people. فَطْلُبِ الْعِلْمَ بَعْدِي. Go to these people to seek knowledge after I am gone. Number one, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Number one. Number two, Abdullah bin Salam, the former rabbi, converted to Islam, became one of the great Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then he says about Abdullah bin Salam, he says, قال Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, هو عاشر عشرة في الجنة. He's the 10th of 10 going to Jannah. This was one of the glad tidings that Rasulullah ﷺ gave about Abdullah bin Salam radiallahu anhu. Of 10, he's the 10th. Meaning, he is for sure one of the people of Jannah. Seek knowledge from him and benefit from his good company. Because you benefit from the company of a person who is guaranteed Jannah. Inshallah, there's a great chance that you'll also be guaranteed Jannah. You'll get something from them that will allow you to go to Jannah as well. Also go to Umar, third person, Umar. But he says, وَلَكِنَّ عُمَرْ يُشْغَلُ عَنْكَ. He's going to be too busy for you. Remember I told you before, a couple of sessions back, he was one of the fuqaha. Umar ibn Khattab was one of the fuqaha, but he did not become known as a faqih because he was too busy with other things. Running the affairs of the Muslimin as the Amir al-Mu'mineen. That was the third person. And fourth, Salman Farsi, Radhi-Allahu anhu. So 4 people. Go to Abdullah bin Mas'ud, or Abdullah bin Salam, Ashura Ashratan fil Jannah, or Umar, but he'll be too busy. So really you only got 3 people. And the 4th person, Salman Farsi, Radhi-Allahu anhu. There's another riwayah. Which relates to another one of his students who was also there at the time of his passing away. He was on his deathbed. So somebody said to him, one of his students said to him, the name is not mentioned here, Awsina ya Abu Abdurrahman. Please, you're leaving this world, please give us some parting advice before you go. He said, Ajlisuni. He was laying down, so he said, please make me sit up. He was so weak, he couldn't even sit up on his own. So he said, فَإِنَّ الْعِلْمَ وَالْإِيمَانَ مَكَانَهُمَا. Ilm and Iman, they have their place. If you go to those places, you'll get Iman. You go to those places, you'll get knowledge. You know what he's referring to? The makan, the place where you get knowledge and where you get Iman. It's not books, it's people's hearts. مَنِ ابْتَغَاهُمَا وَجَدَهُمَا. Whoever looks for them, searches for them, وَجَدَهُمَا, he will find them. In those places where they are located. Remember, ilm and iman, makanahuma, they have their place where they are located. If you go to that place, you'll find it. Just like when you want to get something related to hardware, you go to the hardware store. You want some food or drink, you go to the grocery store. You want ilm and iman, they also have a place where you go to get ilm and iman. He said this 3 times. إن العلم والإيمان مكانهما من ابتغاهما وجدهما إن العلم إيمان والإيمان مكانهما من ابتغاهما وجدهما فإن العلم والإيمان مكانهما من ابتغاهما وجدهما. And then he said فَالْتَمِسُ الْعِلْمَ عِنْدَ أَرْبَعَةٍ. Seek knowledge from 4 places. These are the places where you're going to get what? Knowledge and iman. Which means that the Sahaba understood that in order to get knowledge, in order to get iman, you don't get it from books, you get it from people. You have to sit humbly, in the company of people who have that knowledge, who have a strong level of iman, and you absorb it from them. So he said these are the 4 people. Number 1, Inda Uwaymir. Anybody know who Uwaymir is? Who's Uwaymir? He's a great famous Sahabi. Uwaymir. I mentioned his name just a few days ago. Uwaymir. We don't know him by his name, we know him by his kunya. He's not known by his name. That's why you're not recognizing him. He's Abu Darda Radhi-Allahu anhu. Abu Darda Radhi-Allahu anhu's name was Uwaymir. So go to Abu Darda. You want knowledge, you go to Abu Darda. And the beautiful thing was Abu Darda was already located in Damascus. He was in Damascus. So he said you have knowledge right here. You don't have to go far away. Number 2, Salman al-Farsi. Number 3, Abdullah bin Mas'ud. And number 4, Abdullah bin Salam. So notice the difference in the 2 advices that he's giving. All the names are the same except Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu. And we understand why he didn't give the name of Umar ibn Khattab this time, because he's too busy. So instead of his name, he replaces his name with Uwaymir Abu Darda radiyallahu anhu. But he still points out that if you get a chance and you can learn something from Umar ibn Khattab, please do it. He'll be busy, but remember, he is a great faqih. He's a person of knowledge. Don't just think he's a great administrator, right? But he's also a great faqih. His knowledge is amazing. But he'll be too busy though. So Abu Darda, Salman Farsi, Abdullah bin Masud, Abdullah bin Salam. Abdullah bin, inshallah our next Sahabi will be Abdullah bin Salam Radhi-Allahu anhu, so then we can figure out where he passed away. As far as Abu Darda Radhi-Allahu anhu was, he was in Damascus at that time. Abdullah bin Mas'ud Radhi-Allahu anhu was in Kufa, and Salman Farsi Radhi-Allahu anhu was also in Iraq. Not specifically in Kufa, but he was in Iraq. So for at least two of these Sahaba, they would have to make a long journey. Abu Darda Radhi-Allahu anhu was right there in the city. Umar ibn Khattab, they would have to go to Medina Munawwara. But remember, when it came to knowledge, these people were not stingy. They had so much thirst for knowledge. We see his students have traveled with him from Yemen to Damascus. You know how far that is? And in that time, that was a lot of expense, a lot of effort, a lot of struggle. It was nothing for them because they had that thirst and that value for knowledge. Anyhow. So we were talking about one of his students. His name was Yazid ibn Amira as-Saksaki. Here's another one whose name I mentioned yesterday, who's Ash'ari, who's also from Yemen, Abdul Rahman ibn Ghanam al-Ash'ari, rahimahullah. There's something very interesting about this tabi'i. He was alive during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Just like we read about Uwais Qarni. Uwais Qarni was alive at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he couldn't go to Medina Munawwara because he was tending and taking care of his mother in Yemen. Abdul Rahman ibn Ghanam al-Ash'ari was similar in that he was there in the Arabian Peninsula, alive at the time when Rasulullah ﷺ was in Medina Munawwara, but he could not see him and could not benefit from him because of whatever situation he had that he couldn't get there. But when Mu'adh bin Jabal radhiyallahu anhu was sent down to Yemen, lazama Mu'adh bin Jabal. You know what lazama means? Lazim. He stuck to him. Basically means like glue. He stuck to him. لازم معاذ بن جبل منذ بعثه رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى اليمن إلى أن مات في خلافة عمر. He stuck with him from the time Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم sent him to Yemen to the time that he passed away in the Khilafah of Umar ibn Khattab in Amwas. Another tabi'i who's with him to the very end. Amr ibn Maymun, Yazid, and Abdul Rahman ibn Ghanam al-Ash'ari. All three of these students are from Yemen. When Mu'adh bin Jabal radhiyallahu anhu left, they left their families, they put aside all their other stuff that they were doing, their jobs, everything. And they dedicated their life to seeking knowledge of deen with their teacher Mu'adh bin Jabal radhiyallahu anhu. Subhanallah. Just dropping everything. Just for the sake of seeking knowledge of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's known as Sahibu Mu'adh. That's how he's known. He's not known by his name so much as he's known as Sahibu Mu'adh, meaning the student of Mu'adh, the companion of Mu'adh. Because he used to, لِمُلَازِمَتِهِ لَهُ. He used to be with Mu'adh bin Jabal so much, he never left his side. He was always doing his khidmah, attending to him, serving him, helping him in any which way his teacher needed his help. He was by his side so much that people just started calling him Sahibu Mu'adh. That's his name now, Sahib. Sahib means companion. The companion of Mu'adh. They don't know his name anymore. Just like you didn't know the name of Abu Darda radhiyallahu anhu, Uwaymir. Abdurrahman ibn Gharam al-Shari has met many of the great Sahaba. He narrates many hadith, not many, but some hadith from Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu too. But that's after Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu passed away. Then he moved on to seeking knowledge from other Sahaba ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in. He's known as min afqahi ahl Sham, the greatest fuqaha of Sham. The greatest fuqaha of Sham. And it's mentioned in his biography, وَكَانْتْ لَهُ جَلَالَةٌ وَقَدْرٌ. He had a very high status amongst the people of Sham and all the Muslims. There's something else mentioned about him. If I get into that and I mention this, then it's going to become very long, so we're going to skip it for now. And if we have time at the end, we'll come back to it, inshallah. One last anecdote related to the love of people for Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu. What type of personality he had? He had students. Once they got stuck to him, then that's it. They never let go of him. Anybody. Once they met him, got to know him, they fell in love with him. And the Sahaba, we already heard about the praise of the Sahaba for him. So, Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu, when he came down to Yemen, there's a story mentioned about the love of the community where he was sent, the people of Yemen. How much they loved him, how much they followed him, how much they tried to imitate him. So once Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu was leading Salah while he was in Yemen. فَبَسَطَ رِجْلَهُ, and he spread his leg when he was praying his Salah. Meaning, normally when we pray, when we're sitting down in Salah, our feet are tucked underneath us. Right? But he had spread one of his legs out to the side because his leg was hurting. Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu's leg was hurting. So people who were sitting behind did the exact same thing. The whole Jamaat, everybody stuck their legs out. فَبَسَطَ الْقَوْمُ أَرْجُلَهُم. This is how much they were imitating him. They watched everything he did. And when they saw that the Imam Sahib is doing this, then we're going to do the same thing. So when he prayed namaz, he turned around and he saw everybody has their legs spread out. So he said, قَدْ أَحْسَنْتُمْ. You did good. Meaning this is how it should be. You should follow your Imam. And obviously he was a representative of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So whatever he did was the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's what they're thinking. But he has to clarify that this is not sunnah. This is not part of my representation of the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, وَلَكِنْ لَا تَعُودُوا. Please don't do this again. You did good, mashallah, but don't do this again. Why? إِنَّمَا بَسَطْتُ رِجْلِيَّ فِي الصَّلَاةِ لِأَنِّي اشْتَكَيْتُهَا. I spread my leg to the side because I had some pain in my leg. So it's for a personal reason that I did that. It's not sunnah or anything. Right? Now, this tells you how careful the Sahaba had to be. People like Mu'adh bin Jabal had to be, because everything they did is being recorded and followed right away. So if he did something that was more personal rather than sunnah related, then he had to clarify for them that, listen, this is not sunnah, this is just my personal thing. You want to do it, that's fine, but know that it's not as a sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But it just tells you the connection that the community had with him, the level of trust that they had in him, and how much they loved him. Everything he did, he's a representative of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and whatever he does is going to be the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We will do it exactly as we see him do it, whether it's in ibadah or outside of the masjid. It doesn't matter what it is. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll mention a few more stories regarding his fear of Allah, and I had mentioned yesterday about his adab, his level of adab. The adab of the Sahaba was another level. Another level. Like, to the extent that it doesn't even cross our mind to think even along those lines. That's the level of adab that they had. We think, why do you have to do this? It's not fard wajib sunnah. Right? But the Sahaba had such a connection with Allah and His Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that their level of adab was so high that it even cross our mind to even think or do such a thing. And really, the stronger the connection is, the more adab that comes inside of us. The more love we have, the more adab there will be. So we shouldn't make objection when somebody does something out of adab for Allah and His Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, even though there may be no proof for it from the Quran and Sunnah. There may be no proof for it. But if that person is doing it out of adab, that person is going to gain a lot from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching that, look, out of His love for me, He's doing this. Which reminds me of one incident that Hadhrat Shaykh Zakaria rahmatullahi alayhi narrates in his book, Akabir Ulama Deoband. And it's related to a book that he had read when he was a child. And in that book, there was a story about Musa alayhi salatu salam, who came across this Bedouin. This Bedouin doesn't know a thing about the world, right? So he had a little doll in his hand, and he was doting upon it and saying, oh, if you were my God, I would dress you up, I would decorate you, I would, put perfume on you and fragrance on you, and I would do this and I would do that. And he's talking with the doll as if he's talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I would do this, and he's showing so much reverence. So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam obviously was very angry. He says, what is wrong with you? You think this is Allah? You think this is Allah? Astaghfirullah, do tawbah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminded Musa alayhi salatu wasalam that was the limit of his understanding. He doesn't understand any better. He's just trying to express his love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best way that he could. That was his level of adab. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loved that. That was the best way he understood. That's how he did it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loved it. You don't understand it, that's your problem. Sometimes people do adab. We don't understand that adab because we're thinking on the legal, from the legal perspective of, is it from the Quran, Sunnah, is a wajib, fard. If that person is doing it out of adab, not as a sunnah, as an adab because of he's expressing, or she is expressing their love for Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then we have to respect that, because that manifests the level of connection that they have with Allah and His Rasul. You'll see people that don't love Allah and His Rasul don't show any adab. They have no adab. They have more adab for money and dunya than they have for Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? And those who love Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam a lot are very, very careful about making sure that we don't displease Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in any way. So, for example, Uthman Radhi-Allahu used to say, I have never touched my private part with my right hand. Is it haram? It's an adab, right? It's an adab. Never in his life. Because the right hand is used for good things. So it doesn't matter how difficult situation was it, what it was. If the situation became difficult and there was a need, still, he never used his right hand for touching or covering his private part. This was his adab for the hadith in which Rasulullah talks about the virtue of using the right for good things. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq to build that connection with Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that we also have kamil adab. Kamil adab. Which just reminds me of another thing. Sahaba would never say, Ya Muhammad. When we talk to our parents, do we call them by their name? Right? So a person's mother's name is Khalida. He says, Khalida, come here. Instead of calling his mother, oh mother, come here. Why don't we say that? It's adab. No proof for it from the Quran and Sunnah. It's adab. That same adab you'll see in the Sahaba. You don't say Ya Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Say Ya Rasulullah. Say Abu al-Qasim. They'll say Abu al-Qasim. Or As-Sadiq al-Masduq. Only in certain occasions where they're trying to make a strong point and it was needed, they would say it. But not to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when they're talking to someone. Otherwise, always when they're especially in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, only Ya Rasulullah. That's it. This was the adab. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين جزاكم الله خير.